Outdoors New South Wales and ACT, and also one of the directors of the Outdoor Council of Australia. As everyone knows, we are right in the midst of the Outdoor Leadership Qualification Review, and there's been a lot of discussion, which is great. The industry is quite engaged and quite involved, but there's some conversation around maybe some anxiety, maybe some reluctance about some of the changes that are being proposed. This session here, I've invited HumanAbility and some key people to have a chat with us about where it's currently sitting and put people's minds at ease about the next steps to make sure that this qualification is exactly what it's needed to do for the industry from next year forward. So welcome, Michelle, Stephen, Dan, thank you so much for joining and giving us this opportunity to have this chat. I really want it to be a chat and share the content that I know is in your heads that everyone needs to really understand so they can get the most out of this process themselves, not just the industry. So you guys okay if we kick off?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Laurie.
Awesome. So let's start with you, Michelle and Dan. Can you please tell us about your roles, and then Stephen, tell us about yours and how you're involved in this qualification review? Michelle, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Laurie. So my name's Michelle Csapo. I am Director of Training Product Development, looking after sport and recreation, but also aquatics and fitness and the early childhood sector. But at the moment, I'm helping with the team leading the Outdoor Recreation and Leadership Qualification Review. And I might pass over to Dan.
Thanks, Michelle. So my name's Dan Waters. I'm a Stakeholder Engagement and Policy Manager at HumanAbility, focusing predominantly within the sport and recreation space. So I was involved in the project right from the get-go in helping tap into industry and getting the right people in the room. And then also I've headed along to quite a number of industry forums and really trying to help HumanAbility keep our ear to the ground and make sure that the product that we end up with is fit for purpose and suits what the industry needs.
Amazing, Dan. Stephen?
Thanks, Laurie. My name's Stephen Schumann. I'm a technical writer with HumanAbility. And with my colleagues, our job is to shape and form the qualifications and rewrite the units of competency for contemporary use. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone. Now, it's about the 24th of November as we're recording this. And if people are watching this post, this is when we're having our chat. Where are we at right now and what's happened to date? Who would like to start with that?
Thanks, Laurie. I might take that one if that's okay. So probably best to give you a bit of an overview of how the process works. So we have an industry advisory committee at HumanAbility that is specifically focused on the sport, fitness, aquatics and outdoor recreation sector. And they give us high-level advice, strategic, a full circle like that on that committee that help us decide which projects to work on next. Once we have a project up and running, we then get together what's called a technical committee. Now, that technical committee, under our current terms of reference, has to have a maximum of 18 members. There are specific people that have to be included in that under the training package organising framework. And they include representatives from industry, education specialists, RTOs, government agencies, unions and peak bodies, etc. We also have to make sure that within that 18, we get a spread of membership representation right across the country as much as we possibly can. That technical committee is an advisory committee and they help advise us on particular aspects of the project and help us resolve things where there might be questions or differences of opinion, guide us in the right direction. With this project, as you know, there are a huge number of specialisations across the outdoor recreation sector, and we really wanted to start the very early drafts with a broad spectrum understanding of those different sectors to help develop those very first drafts. So we went out for expressions of interest for subject matter experts across a range of different areas like climbing and bushwalking and surfing and all of those different specialities. And they help give us some ideas that have formed those very early units. those very early drafts are also informed by the functional analysis, which includes some research we do right at the beginning of the project, looking at documents, doing employer interviews, getting input back at conferences and talking to employees. So the stage we're at right now is we have some early drafts of the units based on all the information coming so far, and we are going out for that public and government consultation. And this is the time for really revising and building and developing what the qualification will look like going forward. So that's where we are right now, is in that consultation phase.
Wonderful. That's fabulous. Does Dan or Stephen, do you want to add anything to that?
I'll just add that you know we needed to really work with industry and stakeholders and try and shape all of the information we'd heard into drafting a starting point for these qualifications. And we're applying all the feedback that we get, and it's all continuing to make those units make more sense. And we've gotten some great feedback on the qualifications and the streams, etc. Thanks, Laurie.
No worries. Okay, so let's move on to the next question then. So your process involves the structure of public consultation, which you've outlined, Michelle. That involves tech, SMEs, industry comments. How does all this work together to help inform what you need?
Yeah, so as we get in all of that feedback, we use all of that information to kind of input into what the next versions look like. So we maintain a consultation log, and all of the feedback that comes in through those surveys gets transferred into that consultation log. And those early drafts that were developed with those subject matter experts are then complemented by that in-person consultation as well. And we've had lots of people engage in that over the past few weeks. It's been great to see the engagement. Now, every answer that goes into those surveys is entered into that log. And we do that so that the person's information is entered exactly as they say it. So there's no misinterpretation from hearing something verbally and then recording it and then going back and writing it down. It's really clear that that person, their feedback is clear and that integrity is maintained. By having the surveys too, it also helps us ensure that everybody has an opportunity to provide independent feedback. So they can come together in a room or online and talk to other people and hear their ideas, and then form their own independent view of what they think they want to put forward to the consultation. And that survey gives them that time to think about that and put forward their views as they see it. And we use that to kind of build consensus and start thinking about, how those units are going to come together and how the qualifications are going to come together based on that feedback. Over the next 2 to 4 months, as we review that feedback, there'll be some things where it's really clear what the sector needs and we can make those changes fairly quickly. And Stephen will probably talk to some of that that's already been happening in the background. Where there is difference of opinion around the way some things look, we'll look at bringing those people back together to have those conversations about how that should look so we can start building consensus. And this is where the surveys are so important, because if you filled out a survey and we know you're one of the people that, has a different opinion to somebody else, we know who to bring back into the room and get back together to have those conversations. But Stephen might like to chat a bit about the work that they've been doing in the background.
Great.
Okay, so one of the things that we've been seeking to do is to align AQF levels and have differentiation of qualifications. That's part of the framework that we work within, so that there can be clear progression between a Cert 3, a Cert 4, and a diploma, and higher opportunities for learning within those qualifications that are suitable. We've been making changes to some units based on the technical information being provided by stakeholders in surveys that might relate to equipment requirements, contemporary terminology, aspects of performance knowledge and evidence that might be missing from a particular level of difficulty or risk. And so that is really helpful when the technical information starts coming through those surveys about what we need to adjust or what we need to include or exclude from a unit or a qualification.
Fabulous. No, that's great. So some of the feedback that I've been getting, particularly is around some of those units that have been merged. How did this come out in the draft? How did it sort of get to that stage if there are so many people that might be in a bit of an opposition to this? Michelle, can you shed a bit of light?
So that's a really good question, Laurie. So one of the things that has come up in qualification reform is that there's a requirement for us to ensure that we reduce duplication in qualifications going forward. There are two ways that duplication presented in those qualifications. One is across activities. There's often a lot of duplication in the performance criteria, performance evidence, and knowledge evidence across, up to 4 or 5 units, all almost the same, except for a few word changes. And in other cases, it's been units from other training packages that have been brought across, and just the environment or the title changed. And that's one of the things we have to look for in this process under this new approach in this country. This is for everybody, not just outdoor recreation. So we discussed some of those things with the subject matter expert groups to get their ideas as to where it might be appropriate to either determine how those units might look different, like was there actually a different level of performance criteria required across them, or determine where potentially some of those units could be merged so that we were demonstrating that we're following the quality principles in regards to duplication. And that's an ongoing process. So it'll take time to, and this is it's a new approach. So it's going to take time to work through where exactly merging is the right way to go and where we actually need to delineate the skills across the units.
Yeah, because as I think you've all heard, there's some concern, but this is good to know that there's a system in place to capture some of that. And I suppose, for the industry sense, they've got to justify why, there's changes that they want to see come back or difference to what they see in the draft.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so I can see that the differences have been made to the level of qualifications, and I actually applaud our delivery of looking at the pathway, because I think in the outdoor industry we've struggled at making sure that we keep people in the industry by having a solid pathway. So why have specific certain electives for certain levels of the qualifications been set that way?
Yeah, so it was interesting. When we did the functional analysis research, we heard a number of issues from stakeholders. One was around attracting students to the qualifications, particularly different levels of the qualifications. So lots of students coming into Cert 2, but students not necessarily coming into the higher level qualifications. We also heard from employers that in many cases they were not advertising for people at the higher level, even though that they needed them, because there are just not enough people with the high level qualifications out there in the sector in order to fill those roles. So if they advertised for a diploma person, they wouldn't get any applicants, even though they actually need someone with those skills. And that really starts to kind of skew what the whole country understanding is around the skill needs for this sector. So it can have quite reaching and lasting implications. So it was really important that we help define, as well as for the quality principles of qualification reform, we have to do that anyway. We have to make sure there's clear progression, but also for the stability and the ongoing viability of the sector. And this is a long-term solution. We have to think about how can we sequence the qualifications? How can we create good articulation pathways so that students come in and want to progress through the different levels and they get good articulation, and also the workers start to get provided for the right job levels in organisations.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's really great. Dan, I might throw to you on this one. The industry is obviously wanting to give some feedback on their particular areas, and maybe it's only one area of a qualification or the whole area, but what is it important for them to know about their feedback and why it's so important that they do respond?
Yeah, good question, Laurie. It's really important. I guess there's three things we're really looking for when we're looking at responses. We want to know what it is that needs to change from those drafts. So if you're reading through those drafts and you think, look, that needs to be changed from the way it's currently written, we need to know what it is. We need to know why. So some really, really robust and thought through justification as to why it's either needs to change or is inaccurate or needs to be written a different way. And then thirdly, kind of what it should say, what the solution is, or what it should be changed to. So you've got three things. So what needs to change, why it needs to change, and what it needs to be changed to. So if people just think through those three, I guess, checklist points as they're giving their feedback, that would really help us really justify any changes that need to be made. The other thing that Michelle can probably talk to is all feedback is really relevant. It's not a democracy in terms of 5 people said this and 1 person said this. If we've got really sound reasoning and justification, even if it's only 1 person that said this needs to be this way, and we can justify that based on that really, really thought through and considered feedback, that'll really help us.
Yeah, you're right, Dan. And even where there is that really one person has this really well-reasoned feedback, we think, oh, this is an issue. We need to stop and consider this. The people that had the alternate opinion, we'll still engage with them and bring them back to the table and have those conversations about, oh, hey, someone said this. We think it's really important. Do we need to rethink this?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's really good because I think, as you said, Dan, I think people feel like the numbers are going to make the difference, but really this is about really justifying how they feel about it and saying why it should be different as opposed to saying they don't like it or yes, they like
exactly.
it.
And the other thing I just wanted to add also, that early stage where we brought in, there's about 100 subject matter experts to help build out that first draft. It is a first draft, and so we really want to get everyone's opinion on that. Consider it a draft, not a final piece of work that we need to worry about. If you're worried about anything within that draft, we really want to hear it. Now's the time. So yeah, up until the midnight on the 21st of December, we really want to hear everyone's opinions and really capture as much of that feedback as we can.
Yeah, wonderful.
And you're right about that draft focus. I think that's really important because we could have spent hours of writers' time reviewing and making the documents perfect, but really what you want is a rough base for everybody to start working from so that we can come up together with, and that writer's time can be better spent than working on updating those drafts.
Yeah, brilliant. And
Laurie,
just
could I just
Yep, go for
sorry,
it,
could I
Stephen.
just
Yep.
say thank you to all of the stakeholders that have contributed so far, whether positive or negative. It's really nice to get some positive comments, particularly those that are well-rounded from what the industry perspective is and what an employer needs at each level.
Yeah.
It's really good to hear those things from employers directly, as well as from specialists. And I just wanted to say thank you because it's really fundamental.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Stephen. And, as everyone knows, most of all of us are outdoors more often than not. So sitting down at a computer is a big task to then enter into this. So I'd like to second that, Stephen, and say thanks to the industry who've done it and those that are about to do it as well. Because as I said at the beginning, this is so important to make sure that this qualification is what we need to not only just support our sector, but to grow our sector. And I think that's the key. The last question here, and my lights keep going out, is there anything else any three of you would like to add to let the industry know about this review and what's going to happen, or what it's going to do for the outdoor industry?
We've all gone quiet now.
Yeah,
Put you
I
on the
think the
spot.
one thing I just wanted to add, which touches on that a little bit, is just to understand that HumanAbility, we don't have a vested interest in any result other than the fact that we want it to work for the industry. And we're not experts, so we really need to hear from as many people as possible. And people that are considering giving feedback are in a really, really good position to be able to really influence the outcome. So I just want to really emphasize that if you're thinking, oh, is it worth me giving feedback? Am I actually going to be listened to? We really, really, really do need the feedback, because we don't have the answers ourselves. We want to hear from the industry because we want a good product in the end.
Yeah, good points, Dan.
I think what I'd add is that it's really important to put forward both sides. So if there's things that have changed that you really like, please say that, because when we want to bring a balanced group of people back to have those conversations, we need to bring in people who are for, people who are against, so that they can hear each other's ideas and we can really build the best product at the end possible.
Yeah, wonderful. Stephen, anything you'd like to add?
Laurie, nothing for me to add, but Michelle might like to speak to, what the following steps are after we've finished the consultation phase, and it will be a Christmas celebration to have all of those qualification feedbacks available to us on the 25th of December.
So you can work on Christmas Day.
Exactly.
Yeah, and all of that feedback will be made public. People will be able to go in and see. At first, it will be under consideration, but every line of feedback will be responded to. So you'll know at the end of the process what got implemented, how your feedback actually influenced the project at the end of the day, and you'll be able to see that, and then it will go up for approval through the assurance body and to skill ministers.
Amazing. Dan, anything from yourself around what else we'll be expecting in 2026?
Yeah, well, this, I guess this piece of work is one of 17 training product updates that we've been working on. So it's not all we do. We also do conduct research in the training space. So we've got 5 research projects either underway or coming up. Currently, we've got a project looking at earn while you learn models. We've got a project looking at completion rates and some of the causes for low completion rates. And we're going to have a micro credentials project beginning next year, and we'll also have a couple of other projects on the way. We really want to try and get sport and recreation involved in those projects. So where you'd like to have some input or have your say around kind of what's happening in that space in training, and then that can help us influence and provide the evidence to government to say, look, this is a good way to go moving forward. So there's the research space. We've also got we also do workforce planning. So we've produced annual workforce plans, and we will be working through with yourself, Laurie, and the sport and recreation sector about really doing a deep dive in the next few years into some of the issues that are happening within sport and recreation, and how we can really flesh those out and provide some really, really meaty work for the industry to be able to utilise as well.
Amazing. And I just want to thank you all for your support in our advocacy around the occupational shortage list as well. That was as much as it's a negative to be in that situation, getting that recognition for us was incredibly important. And obviously the real work begins now to try to maximise that. But thank you to your team for helping us with that. And thank you for being on this journey, as I feel like we've been the guinea pig in a new stage of, where the JSCs, the Jobs and Skills Councils, are interacting with qualifications reviews. And I think, if I can put it into into an analogy, I feel like we're the round peg into the square hole that is probably the most round you can get, because we've got so many packages in our qualifications. So well done for picking the hardest first. But hopefully what we've navigated through today will help the industry in getting more informed and help set up future reviews and the processes. As you are the conduit between government and industry, you've got to respond to both, and challenging environment. But yes, it is a good process. We've got to follow the process, because that, at the end of the day, that's hopefully will give us the best outcome. Thank you guys for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Laurie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, have a great day, everyone.
You too. Bye. And that stopped.